Yes.
Yeah, but it's
Do
not.
you want me to put it back up, or it's fine? What he's referring to is, it's better, you know, it would take me a while to pull up the image from the National Gallery, which is a little bit of a better description of this. So, in the portrait of the artist and his mother, as well as another work, the portrait of Master Bill, which is actually not Bill de Kooning, but a portrait of a house painter that Gorky really liked and admired. He's not really defined the hands, and there are lots of interpretations about this. Peter Balakian is like, you know, he can't touch the hands, and so he's not made them recognizable. And in Adam Ogoyan's film Ararat, you see Gorky on his knees in frustration, putting his hands against the hands and messing up the hands. So you can see that they're not really defined. I argue in my book that you can interpret Gorky in such ways that, I mean, he wanted you to come to interpretations from your own information, and you didn't necessarily had to know exactly what he was trying to do. You didn't necessarily have to know exactly his biography. Like, you know that this is some kind of strained relationship here, even if you don't have the background information of the genocide here. However, my feeling on the hands is that it's partially a modernist convention. Gorky manipulated his paintings so that they were a general compositional construction. And in modern art, and in particularly, we're at an era before abstract expressionism. There's this idea in abstract expressionism of making an all-over painting, a non-hierarchical painting, which means that no part of the painting is more direct or more recognizable or more defined than any other part of that painting. And I think he's kind of starting to do this, because what he's done is he wants you to get up and look at the faces a little bit more. He wants you to see this as it is a picture. It is an image that's based on a picture, but it's also, in terms of modernist art, like Matisse and like Picasso and like Cézanne, a collection of forms and shapes and colors. And so my feeling is that if those hands are really defined or really distinguished, then you go to the hands. And the hands actually block your entrance. Any definition of the hands would block your entrance into that painting and into seeing the composition as a whole, and into kind of getting the overall emotive quality. And that's sometimes what details do. You get so stuck on a detail that you can't see the forest for the trees. So that's generally the interpretation that I go with, but there are other possibilities. And Adam Ogoyan admits that his interpretation of Gorky painting that work is a fiction. It's a fiction within a fiction. It's a story within a story, but but according to what I think Gorky's feeling is about people having views about his art, that it's actually okay that Adam did that. So.
But could those symbolize her being cut off, since he's only half cut off?
Well, you could argue that,
and
but
he argues that through his
art. It doesn't really happen in the other version. So, it also can mean he's at a different point in time, in space or in time, where he has an existence. If you look, his right hand is actually a little bit more defined. So if you go from left to right, you're kind of more in existence. I mean, Gorky still exists, and maybe you go to the shadow world, or maybe a little bit more to the ghost world, and you can see that also in with her face. And if you see the other version, and I really apologize that I don't have it really handy to show you. The National Gallery version is much paler and much more kind of washed out, almost. But also she's referred to as kind of maybe having a death mask. So there is this idea of you're kind of moving from existence to the immaterial, or living to dead.
One more question. Yes, sir.
Yes, I was just, where he has so many different styles, what style would you put this painting in?
Well, the challenge of the artist and his mother paintings are that he kept them. He kept them, and as late as 43, his wife saw him working on these. So the challenge then is that he probably started this in 1920. Notice I didn't put the dates up there because I'm still on the fence about the dates. He probably started working on this in 1926, and that's partly because of, we have this drawing. Where is it? Where is she? There she is. We have this drawing, which when I examined this way back, and then we were standing in front of it in the exhibition. It has the date of 19-something-6 that looks like a 2, but also looks like a 3. So this could have been like a preparatory drawing, maybe I think it's 1926, and it's probably something he worked on, but probably finished it at some point as a preparation to the paintings. But he kept working on these paintings, so the challenge is that it could be that they're not necessarily completely indicative of that early work of pre-1930, that there's probably some concepts and some things that he was exploring from the 1930s, which would be the works like organization that are going into it, but we're not entirely sure. So technically this is an abstract expressionist work, even though he was getting into abstract expressionism, and I couldn't give you an ism necessarily into which this could exactly date. You could argue that it's somewhat related to social realism, which was going on in the late 20s and into the 30s. He was hanging out with the Sawyer brothers, for instance, who did portraits, Jewish artists who continued to do portraits, and I don't want to say necessarily similar in style, but a similar interest in the figure. But
Yes. I want to remind you that Dr. Theriault's book, Rethinking Arshile Gorky, which is very recently published by Penn State University Press, is in the bookstore. I know she would be very happy to sign copies of it. We want to thank her for contributing a hardcover copy to NAASR for our library, which we very much appreciate. And Van has a question.
Yeah. Are we giving a discount tonight?
Are you looking at my notes, Van? And for also this evening, every purchase of $25 or more, you'll get a raffle ticket, and we will be having a drawing and giving away a copy of the book. Everything in the bookstore tonight is 20% off, except those things that are more than 20% off. And there's a list of those deep discounted books in the bookstore. We would encourage you to shop and purchase, and in order to encourage Kim, we would like to present her with a little something and our gratitude. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you all, and ho, ho, ho.
Very good.